I'm building an external case for an Amiga flashed version of the Gotek floppy drive emulator. This is actually the top and this is the base. They go together like that. Oops. Like that, and the drive and the cable, a round cable comes out the back. I've got a DB23 shell, DB23 connector, a homemade from a KM Tech board adapter to get the floppy's ribbon cable down to the DB23 and to tell the Amiga all the right lies. And I am in the process right now of pushing brass inserts, threaded inserts into here, and they're a little bit challenging because it's hard to keep them centered over the holes, and usually they need to be cleaned out a little bit with a drill, centered over the holes, and vertical, perpendicular, plumb. So although this is not going to ever be a tight fit in there, there is some wiggle room. I find that this is a great way to get these started. A soldering iron. I originally was trying to turn a custom tip for the soldering iron, but it didn't work, and the conical tip, if you push that in, it binds and then you pull the insert back out again. Anyway, that's in the middle of the frame there-ish. I wonder if I can zoom in a little more for you. It turns out I can. Although I suspect that the resolution just went completely to hell. Focus isn't great. Anyway, yeah, you can't see it anyway. I'll put my finger on the top here and then put the iron on the top of the insert and just wait patiently. I could turn up the temperature of the iron, but it gets out of hand pretty fast. We're not looking to seat this fully. Just get it started. Like that. And this can go back in here and it cools down quite rapidly. I might get rid of that excessive zoom again. Yeah. And we can now just wind this screw out. Be careful, of course, you don't wind it too far in. I think I might have that time and bottomed it out in the bottom of the hole. I didn't design this. It was originally for something else. I filled this back in because it was designed to have a ribbon cable output. But if I was doing this, I would design these holes to just simply be tapped, just with a tap. The brass inserts are lovely, but and so now you can see the process of just melting this in. Tapping plastics is just fine, and these plastics are plenty strong enough to hold a thread. I think there's a rule of thumb for tapping a thread into steel. You want the thread engagement to be around about the same as the diameter of the thread. So, you know, you'd go, well, it depends on your application, and you know, we're talking about a rule of thumb, not the space program or something you might trust your life to, but with a 10mm bolt, an M10 bolt, you want a 10mm thick piece of steel to put a thread into to make sure that the thread wasn't the weak link. And for a aluminium, you double that to 20 millimeters. Although the first part of the thread, that is the part closest to the head of the bolt, will stretch and start to break those threads before the ones at the back of the bolt. But you know, rule of thumb. And into plastic, this PLA is quite hard. And we're not looking at, you know, huge amounts of strength being required. I'd be quite happy with, I think these are M3, I'd be quite happy with 3 millimeters of, 4 millimeters maybe. Often the first part of the thread's a bit how you doing. 4 or 5 millimeters would be heaps. Absolutely heaps. And the only thing with plastics, I mean, some plastics you really shouldn't expose to alcohol, but the biggest trick with tapping plastic is to make sure that the tap remains cold enough so that it doesn't melt the plastic. It needs to cut the plastic. But aside from that, yeah, I'd prefer that this was done with probably M3 times 0.5, so 2.5 millimeter holes, maybe even 2.4 in plastic. A bit more care to prevent overheating at that stage, but and I'm trying to get all of these below the surface of the contact points. That one is now at that point. I can turn the soldering iron, stand by. What you have here is a little bit of fine abrasive. Oh, that's straight on the camera, I'm sure, but you get the idea. Won't do any more of that. You get the idea. I'll be back to a nice mating surface before I know it. So, I'll bring you back at some stage when I'm wiring this up.